Coming up next, we're turning back the clock to the days when the Grammys actually mattered. Yeah, stay with me on this one for a minute. For today's bands, maybe that wasn't necessarily a good thing, because if you landed on today's countdown, it means you're in for some surefire disappointment. Really, you could kiss your career goodbye. I'm talking about the much talked about Grammy curse, the best new artist curse to be specific. Is it a ticking time bomb? Is it ready to blow careers? Well, we're going to investigate this urban legend and tell you the truth. In the process, though, we're going to tell you the story of the singer-songwriter who barely survived being wounded in the head during a carjacking. It's very serious. Also, there's the soft rock quartet behind one of the 70s biggest summer hits whose career got flushed down the toilet, destroying 2 marriages in the process. And then there's the mysterious singer who topped the charts at just 23 with a haunting hit that captivated the nation. Years later, she vanished without a trace. Nobody can find her. So what do all these musicians have in common, though? They won the Grammys Best New Artist Award. Now, is it the kiss of death? Is it music's greatest curse? We're going to find out next on Professor of Rock Together. Hey, music junkies. It's time for the top 7 biggest disasters that came to bands and artists who won the so-called Kiss of Death Award, the Best New Artist Grammy. Now, are you guys familiar with this urban legend? It's been around for a while. Winning the award will tank your career. But is there anything to this reputed curse? It's a new series we're doing called the POR Investigation. On this episode, we're going to solve the much-assessed legend here. Is it real or is it fiction? I don't want these numbers to sway your opinion, but right before we get into it, let's just say almost 60% of those who won this award, they never won another award again. For a lot of these artists, a lack of awards was the least of their problems. No, the repercussions of the curse extended far beyond that. I'm talking about destroying careers, destroying marriages, breaking up bands, doing a lot of damage. But during our investigation, we're going to show that there are quite a few bands who did win the award who became massive. Some of the biggest ever, but for every success story, there are multiple cautionary tales, believe me. So let's start our investigation and our countdown at number 7 with the Starland Vocal Band. Known for their 1976 hit, Afternoon Delight. Starland Vocal Band's roots go all the way back to the late 60s in D.C. When husband and wife Bill Danoff and Taffy Nivert formed an acoustic duo called Fat City. Together, the couple showed serious songwriting chops from the very beginning, penning I Guess He'd Rather Be in Colorado for John Denver and Mary Travers. He'd rather be in Colorado. They also co-wrote a little song with John Denver you might have heard of. It's called Take Me Home Country Roads, one of the biggest songs ever. Take me home. In 1969, though, Fat City recorded their debut album Reincarnation, and after 1971's Welcome to Fat City, the duo rebranded as simply Bill and Taffy, and they started opening for John Denver on tour, and this exposure was amazing. But they were still looking for that big breakthrough. Now, in 1974, while working on their second album as Bill and Taffy, the duo enlisted an 18-year-old singer and pianist named John Carroll. They were so impressed by his performance that they decided to form a completely new group. They added Carroll along with vocalist Margot Chapman, and just like that, the Starland Vocal Band was born. They soon signed to John Denver's Windsong label, and in 1976, they released their debut album. The lead single, Afternoon Delight, that came from an appetizer menu, and they went home and wrote a song about sex. A lot of people make fun of this as being a very cheesy song. I get it. But actually, it's one of the most vocally complex songs of the 70s. Seriously. Very complex song. The counterpoint vocals there. I mean, these guys were so squeaky clean as a band that there was a kids' TV show that used Afternoon Delight as their theme. They didn't realize that it was all about sex, and they had to drop it as soon as they figured that out. Baby, gonna hold her tight, gonna grab some afternoon delight. Afternoon Delight quickly shot to the top of the charts, and I mean, this song was all over the place in the summer of 76, it still is. Ultimate 70s soft rock chart topper. Afternoon Delight. Now, the success earned them multiple Grammy nods, and they won 2, including Best New Artist. By this time, Afternoon Delight had gotten so popular that the group even landed their own short-lived CBS variety series, the Starland Vocal Band Show, which featured a young David Letterman in the cast.
You're nothing.
But then came the curse, and it was big. Their second album, Rearview Mirror, that followed in 1977, but it failed to match the success of their debut. And then Late Night Radio released a year later, and that was also pretty bad. After scoring one last minor chart entry with the single Loving You With My Eyes, the group folded in the wake of the 80s. I'm telling you, the fallout was brutal for this band, not only professionally, but personally. Bill and Taffy Danoff divorced in the wake of Starland Vocal Band's demise. John Carroll and Margot Chapman, who had married at the peak of the group's success, they later divorced as well. 2 divorces there. All 4 members tried to establish solo careers after, but none of them ever came close to recapturing the commercial success of Afternoon Delight. In fact, years later, Taffy Nyvert talked about the song on VH1's 100 Greatest One-Hit Wonders, and she pinned the band's demise and the destruction on one thing and one thing only: winning the Best New Artist at the 77 Grammys. Said Taffy, and I quote, "We got 2 Grammys. One was Best New Artist. So that was basically the kiss of death, and I feel sorry for everyone who's gotten it since." Wow. Afternoon Delight. All right, coming in at number 6, I've got Marc Cohn, Walking on Memphis. Singer-songwriter and pianist Marc Cohn grew up with a turbulent background. His mother passed away when he was 2, and his father died when he was 12, leaving him to be raised by his stepmother. Before that, Cohn's mother, she worked 7 days a week as a pharmacist, but was always in debt. The family could never seem to get ahead. Perhaps because of these initial hardships, Cohn started writing songs at a very early age. He started playing his first solo acoustic sets around Cleveland coffee bars in his late teens. Afterwards, Marc moved to New York and began demoing songs for various writers, including Jimmy Webb. He also became a prominent session keyboard player, including a stint on Tracy Chapman's second album. Then Marc Cohn took a fateful trip looking for his song in Memphis, and it happened. Amongst many really cool experiences, you saw signed Mark Hollywood for a honky-tonk catfish diner, where he met a 70-year-old black pianist, a singer named Muriel, who played elegant versions of spirituals and R&B songs. And Cohn struck up a conversation with her and ad-libbed a performance. And by the end of it, the pair had brought the house down. This experience resulted in Marc Cohn writing Walking in Memphis, and of course, visiting Graceland and many other things. The song that would define his career. My blue suede shoes and I boarded the plane. Now, in 91, Cohn released his self-titled debut, and the record was a collection of melodic rock with passionate lyrics drawn from his own life. 10 feet off a beam, walking in Memphis. Walking in Memphis went to number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. It went to number 12 on the AC chart and number 7 on the rock chart. And, this song is perfect. Showcased Cohn's husky voice and his soulful piano-driven style and propelled the album to platinum status. But do I really feel the way I feel? And I'm telling you, this is a perfect album. At the 92 Grammy Awards, Cohn won Best New Artist, and he defeated some big boys like Boyz II Men and Seal that year. But may not have been a good thing. While Walking on Memphis remains a beloved classic to this day, Marc Cohn never replicated its widespread appeal. And this one I don't get. It's Marc Cohn's debut. It's pivotal, like I said. Every song is amazing, and I admire his songwriting gift as highly as the other greats from his time. Christian child, and I said, "Ma'am, I am tonight." The sophomore album, The Rainy Season, that came in 93. To little fanfare, it topped out at number 68 on the U.S. album chart. Even though the record contained another strong batch of songs, though, including Rest for the Weary, and was critically well received, it failed. It didn't produce a charting single. It sold poorly in comparison to the debut, and it generated really no radio buzz. Of course, radio was really changing by this point, and it faded quickly. Rest for the weary. After an extended hiatus, Cohn returned in 98 with Burning the Days, another polished collection of AC pop, but little came of this. In fact, little was heard from the reclusive Cohn over the next few years. And then in August 2005, something horrible happened. Truly tragic, and I'll have to try to explain it in a different way because of YouTube, right? Cohn was shot here during an attempted carjacking after a concert in Denver. Amazingly, he survived with only minor injuries. Since then, Marc has continued to create quality music throughout his career and toured, but the expectations of commercial success set by that Grammy win, they just never happened. Marc Cohn is truly one of the most underappreciated singer-songwriters of the rock era, and his music truly deserved better. I'm going to link to it below. You got to hear his stuff. I mean, his song Dig Down Deep is one of my favorite songs ever. It's really near and dear to my wife and I's heart. You could say it's our song.
Dig down deep.
Here's a nugget from my interview with him.
If I was going to be honest with myself, I hadn't arrived. I hadn't found my songwriting voice. And I went to Memphis specifically to try to find it. And that's the oddest part of the story to me, because my experience ever since then is whenever I go consciously looking for inspiration, I never find it.
All right.
But this time was different. I thought maybe, at least I'll hear something that'll open up my sensibilities, or I'll meet someone, or I'll see something. And it just never stopped from the minute I walked off the plane till I went home.
First class ticket, but I'm as blue as a boy can be.
So Marc is bravely fighting Parkinson's right now. Love that guy. All right, coming in number 5, we're going to talk about Bobbie Gentry, one of the earliest and most mysterious victims of the Best New Artist Grammy curse.
Billy Joe McAllister jumped off the Tallahatchie Bridge.
Now, born Roberta Lee Streeter, Gentry was raised on a poverty-stricken farm in Greenwood, Mississippi, and was interested in music from a very early age. She wrote her first song at the age of 7, and by her teens, she was performing regularly under the name Gentry. Now, she was eventually signed by Capitol Records, and in 1967, Bobbie Gentry went into the studio to record Mississippi Delta. Now, for the B-side, she recorded one of her own songs, Ode to Billie Joe. She did it in about 30 minutes. Violins and cellos were added, and the song was reduced from its original 7 minutes to 4 minutes and 15 seconds. And as a result of DJ reactions, Ode to Billie Joe became the A-side instead. They flipped it over.
Billie Joe anyhow.
Gentry's song topped the U.S. charts for 4 weeks. She was only 23 years old when Ode to Billie Joe took off. It dominated the pop, rock, country, and easy listening charts altogether. The song became a cultural sensation, and its mystery captivated listeners everywhere. Capitol's truncated version only added to the intrigue. What did Billie Joe and his girlfriend throw off that Tallahatchie Bridge?
And she and Billie Joe was throwing something off the Tallahatchie.
This song had everything that you'd want out of a great pop song. It was haunting, it was ambiguous, it was unforgettable.
He recollected when he and Tom and Billie Joe.
In 1968, Gentry won the Best New Artist Grammy, along with 2 others on the strength of Ode to Billie Joe. But the sheer mystique and the magnitude of that single proved impossible to replicate. Between 1967 and 1971, she released 7 albums. And with the exception of her collaboration with Glenn Campbell, none of them fared well at all.
Let it be me.
Her subsequent records, such as the Delta Suite, were creatively ambitious and they were well regarded, but they just didn't produce a crossover hit. Now, under intense media scrutiny, the pressure to repeat her initial success would eventually lead to Bobbie Gentry withdrawing from public life altogether. During the later years of her career, Bobbie Gentry spent a majority of it in Las Vegas exploring other talents, actually. She crafted glitzy stage shows, she designed wild costumes, and choreographed dance routines. By the mid-70s, she had virtually retired from performing to devote time to her business interests. Her last publicly documented appearance was in 1982 when she attended the Country Music Association Awards.
Picking flowers up on Choctaw Ridge.
By 1983, less than 20 years after her smash breakthrough, mind you, Bobbie Gentry performed a career first and last. And get this, it's very mysterious. She was set to take the stage with Mac Davis during a concert, and she canceled the show abruptly and then disappeared from public life completely. No one can track her down. She's not on any social media. She's not online. She just disappeared. Good for her.
To the muddy water off the Tallahatchie Bridge.
All right, we made it to number 4. Let's talk about Men at Work and their connection to the Grammy curse.
And she said, do you come from a land down under?
Formed in Melbourne, Australia in 1979, Men at Work started out as just an acoustic duo. Singer Colin Haywood emigrated from Scotland to Australia at the age of 14, teamed up with guitarist Ron Stryker. The two played small inner suburban pubs, building a following the old-fashioned way. Now, eventually, they expanded that lineup. They added Greg Ham on keyboards and sax. Oh, love that sax. John Reese was on bass and Jerry Spicer on drums. For 2 years, they grinded in tiny venues before finally getting discovered by CBS Records executive, a guy named Peter Carpin. In 1981, Men at Work released their first single, Who Can It Be Now? It was an enormous hit in Australia. The song was marked by Colin Hayes' distinctive, heavily accented vocals and, of course, Greg Ham's honking saxophone.
Who can it be now?
I mean, this song on the radio in the early 80s, it was quirky, it was catchy, it was totally different from anything on radio. Soon after that, they followed up with another number one smash down under. And of course, their debut album, Business as Usual, sold like hotcakes.
You better take cover.
The band's success surprised but infuriated many Australian critics who had written them off as derivative. But Men at Work had something special. Blessed with 3 songwriters and supported by videos that showcased the band's humorous side, they were on the verge of going viral. They were huge.
Knocking at my door.
With added exposure as a support act to Fleetwood Mac, Men at Work broke into the American market in a massive way. Who Can It Be Now hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 82, and like I said, quickly followed up by Down Under, and 2 number 1 hits in a row.
You better take cover.
Business as Usual, that went to number 1 on the US album charts for a remarkable 15 weeks. That set a new record for the longest run at number 1 by a debuting band. Nobody had ever done that. Success followed in the UK, where Down Under reached number 1 in early 83, accompanied by Business as Usual topping the charts there. They were massive global. For 2 weeks, Men at Work sat atop both the singles and album charts in the US and the UK at the same time. And there's only a few bands that have ever done that in history. Then it happened. February of 1983, Men at Work won the Best New Artist Grammy.
Watch this.
And then 2 months later, they dropped their second album, Cargo. Now, this was by no means a failure. It sold 3 million copies. It went to number 3 on the Billboard 200, and there was a lot of buzz around it. The record scored 2 top 10 hits. Actually, I think their best hit, Overkill, and even It's a Mistake. And both are great songs.
From overkill. It's a mistake.
But even Cargo was a clear step down from their debut. And for all intents and purposes, this was truly the end of their run. In 1985, the band was embroiled in internal disputes, legal issues, and their commercial prospects took a turn for the worse.
After dead reappear.
With the release of their third album, Two Hearts, it was clear that the magic of their debut was long gone. Two Hearts peaked at just number 50 on the US album chart, and the lead single, Everything I Need, it did not hit the top 40. And it didn't go much better in their homeland. It hit number 37 on the Kent Music Report. Now, by this point, the original lineup had disintegrated, leaving Colin Hayes the sole surviving member. The breakup in 1985 followed arguments over management and songwriting. Men at Work had gone from one of the biggest bands in the world to just a pleasant memory in just a couple of years. Now, just like Taffy from the Starland Vocal Band, Colin Hay was never hesitant to call out the award as a total curse. Over the years, he's repeatedly referred to it as the Best New Artist / Kiss of Death Award. So there's that. 2 of them who say it definitely is a curse. All right, coming in at number 3, I've got one of the most dramatic examples of the Best New Artist Grammy curse. Christopher Cross. In 1980, Christopher Cross released his self-titled debut album packed with smooth AOR songs that were absolutely ideal for radio play. And man, did radio ever eat it up. The album spawned a string of massive hits. I mean, there was Ride Like the Wind featuring Michael McDonald. That reached number 2 on the Hot 100. Sailing, which hit number 1 and became one of the biggest songs of the early 80s. Never Be the Same and Say You'll Be Mine both Solid chart performers as well. Cross was everywhere. And then came the 1981 Grammy Awards. Christopher Cross achieved something unprecedented. He swept the big four categories: Album of the Year, Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Best New Artist, all for that debut album. Not bad, right? It was a clean sweep that set an impossibly high standard for anything that was going to come after. No one had ever done this before. Shortly after his Grammy night, Christopher Cross delivered another massive hit. It went to #1. He sang and co-wrote, along with Carol Bayer Sager, Burt Bacharach, and Peter Allen, the theme song, Arthur's theme, Best That You Can Do, for the movie Arthur. This song, it was massive. Like I said, gave him another US #1 hit. It also won an Oscar. But after 1981, things slid, and slid big time. Cross's second album, Another Page, that arrived in '83 and was met with indifferent sells, and the critics ripped it apart. They dismissed him as too soft and even boring. The album did manage to produce one more top 10 hit with Think of Laura, which is featured on ABC's General Hospital. Actually, the TV show didn't get permission, allegedly, and he didn't make a dime off the use of it, but it made the song a hit. That would be his last major chart success. After 1984, Cross's commercial fortunes completely faded. As MTV dominated mainstream music in America, Christopher Cross's adult contemporary offerings were not really the ideal fit for the heavy new wave metal rock pop network. The soft rock landscape he had dominated rapidly shifted toward MTV and new wave and all that, and it left him adrift. Sorry, I had to go there. His next two albums, 1985's Every Turn of the World and 1988's Back of My Mind, failed to score a single top 40 hit or even reach gold status. His track Charm the Snake petered out at number 68 on the Hot 100. Warner Brothers dropped him following the release of Back of My Mind in '88. Christopher Cross continued to make albums throughout the 90s, but his commercial fortunes never improved. He spent the remainder of his career unable to escape the shadow of his perfect debut, becoming a textbook illustration of the Best New Artist curse. He went from sweeping the Grammys to being dropped by his label in just a handful of years. Christopher Cross remains the most sudden and dramatic examples of the curse in action. But hey, he's riding high right now, touring, selling out places all over. People remember that debut album so fondly, and his other stuff is so great. Maybe it really is a curse.
Soon I will be free.
All right, coming in at the #2 spot, the bridesmaid position, I've got Norah Jones. And stick with me on this one, because this one's a little bit different.
I don't know why I didn't come.
In the summer of '99, Norah Jones packed up and headed to Greenwich Village in Manhattan. And almost immediately, she started making waves on the local folk and jazz scene, sitting in with fusion band Wax Poetic and jazz guitarist Charlie Hunter. She also worked the lounges and the clubs around the city. Soon, Norah would assemble her own group with Jesse Harris on guitar, Lee Alexander on bass, and Dan Reeser on drums while playing the club circuit. Jones caught the attention of songwriter Peter Malick at a little place called The Living Room. Blown away, Malick hired her for studio sessions in late summer of 2000. That fall, Norah recorded demos that landed in the hands of Blue Note Records. After a live showcase in January 2001, they signed her on the spot. And then over the next several months, Jones worked with 3 producers, Jay Newland, Craig Street, and soul veteran Arif Mardin. Highlights from these sessions became her debut album, Come Away With Me. That was released in February 2002.
Come away with me in the night.
Now, first, the record was a modest success. It debuted at a quiet number 139 on the Billboard album chart. Over the course of that year, something amazing happened. Come Away With Me gained major momentum thanks to the single Don't Know Why.
Don't know why I didn't come.
It became a runaway hit on adult contemporary radio, and it pushed the album upward. Their track climbed to number 4 on the AC chart, peaked at number 30 on the top 40, and it stayed on the recurrent play chart for what seemed like forever.
Is drenched in wine.
By January 2003, Come Away With Me had reached the top of the Billboard charts, kicking off a run that lasted 164 weeks, or over 3 years. The album eventually earned a diamond certification from the RIAA, with over 10 million copies sold in the US alone. Worldwide, that number blew up to 27 million and change.
Driving down the road alone.
But the crowning moment came at the 2003 Grammy Awards. They still kind of mattered back then. It's where Norah Jones absolutely dominated. She took home 5 major awards: Album of the Year, Record of the Year, Best Female Pop Vocal Performance, Best Pop Vocal Album, and Best New Artist. It was a clean sweep that positioned her as one of the biggest stars in music. Her follow-up, man, everybody was waiting for that one. 2004, Feels Like Home. It debuted at #1 and sold millions of copies. On paper, it was a big success, but then again, it also failed to produce a legitimate mainstream hit. The lead single, Sunrise, oh, great song. Peaked at #4 on the adult contemporary chart, but it didn't crack the Hot 100.
Sunrise, sunrise.
And her third album, 2007's Not Too Late, also debuted at #1, but its singles fared even worse. Thinking About You topped out at number 82 on the Hot 100. Her only other song besides Don't Know Why to even chart on the Hot 100. Actually, Norah Jones continued releasing albums throughout the 2000s and 2010s, and great stuff.
Thinking about you.
Now, she scored several more adult contemporary hits, maintaining a loyal fan base, but her mainstream moment had clearly passed. She just never came anywhere close to that debut.
Something has to make you run.
She didn't score another hit on the Hot 100. Actually, she really only had one top 40 hit in her career. But again, things changed at that point, because you had different formats, different charts, and so it's not a really good comparison to compare the 2000s to the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, because everything changed. But again, that Grammy sweep, it was just way too high to maintain that momentum. So you have to ask, was it a curse, or was it just like Hootie and the Blowfish, where you sold all these copies, 27 million to just a couple million? I don't know, it's crazy.
I don't know why I didn't come.
At the #1 position on the countdown, it's the duo who really perpetuated the curse of the Best New Artist Grammy, the best case study of all. They actually had to give back their Best New Artist Grammy when they were discovered to be frauds, and I don't know if I can play their music on here because we always get hit with these guys. It's Fab and Rob of Milli Vanilli. If you know your Grammy history, you know that this had to be the one. Now, before Milli Vanilli became pop sensations, the two worked as backing singers in Germany. They desperately wanted musical success and even recorded an album for a small German label that only sold a few thousand copies. Now, struggling financially and living in a housing project, their big break came in early 1988 when they caught the attention of producer Frank Farian. Farian invited them to his studio, promising to make them megastars, even though he was ultimately unimpressed with their singing ability. After signing a contract with Farian, the duo's recorded vocals were replaced in the studio by session singers, setting the stage for the act's later worldwide success and infamy as Milli Vanilli. The duo's US debut, Girl You Know It's True, that sold over 3 million copies and spawned 4 massive singles. Girl You Know It's True, that one hit #2, while Baby Don't Forget My Number, Girl I'm Gonna Miss You, and Blame It on the Rain all topped the charts. Hat trick, 3 #1 smashes. Rob and Fab became international stars. They were the biggest hit makers of their time. I mean, even Michael Jackson and George Michael gave them props, with George Michael quipping that they were the competition on the charts at that time. If you look at 1989 and 1990, they ruled. I mean, they lorded it over everyone. In 1990, Milli Vanilli took the Grammy stage and they accepted the Best New Artist Award in coordinated blazers with bulking shoulder pads. Hey, the 80s were still alive, even if it was the 90s. But spoiler alert, the duo accepted an award for music that other individuals sang, right? Suspicions had already been growing. Interviews with Rob and Fab, they revealed their heavily accented English, yet there was no trace of German accent in their music. And then came the infamous moment that pulled back that curtain. During a live MTV performance, their backing track skipped, and it revealed that they were lip syncing. Most of the audience was kind of unfazed, really, but the incident increased suspicions about the duo's authenticity. That's actually not the moment that people discovered it. In November of 1990, Frank Farian sat down with reporters and exposed Rob and Fab as pretenders. The duo had been chosen for their looks and were effectively locked out of the studio when recording took place. Less than a week later, their Grammy was revoked and their names were wiped from Grammy history. Literally, their names are MIA on the official website. Go look. I'll give a picture, a screenshot. There's not even a footnote. Farian relaunched the group in 1991 as the real Milli Vanilli, like Real Coke, using the actual singers from the original studio sessions, but, nobody was going to buy that. The damage was done. There was no coming back from it. In April of 1998, Rob, he died of an overdose in Frankfurt, Germany, bringing a tragic end to the already tragic Milli Vanilli story. But get this. There's a new wrinkle in the Milli Vanilli story, one that's unfolding in real time right before our eyes. So in 2025, Fab co-wrote the memoir, You Know It's True, The Real Story of Milli Vanilli with Parisa Rose. And get this, he's been nominated for reading that work in the upcoming 68th Annual Grammy Awards in the category Best Audio Book Narration and Storytelling Recording. Insane, right? It gets even crazier. Fab is going up against the Dalai Lama, reading of meditations and reflections of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. I mean, it seems like kind of a long shot for Fab, but you never know. I mean, could it actually be possible that after 3+ decades, one half of Milli Vanilli could win a legitimate Grammy? And specifically a Grammy for how he had his previous Grammy revoked. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I can't wait to see what happens. I would actually watch the Grammys to see that one. Of course, they're not going to show that award on the Grammys, but hey, we'll check it out. All right, so that ends our investigation. So is there anything to it? Is winning the Grammy for Best New Artist really a curse? Could it just be that the Grammys are really a poor judge of what new artists will achieve long-term success? I don't know. There are so many examples of careers that tanked after winning the Best New Artist Grammy. I've given you 7 of them. But there are plenty of artists that had massive careers after winning it. Let's look at that. There's the Beatles, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, the Carpenters, America, Mariah Carey, Sheryl Crow, Carrie Underwood, Adele. They all won Best New Artists. So it's a mixed bag.
She's in love with me and I feel fine. What have you got to lose?
Just like me, they long to be.
Best New Artist Grammy, it's been awarded since the second Grammy show in 1959. The category was inactive in 1967 at the 9th Grammy Awards. And we just said, the winner of the 32nd award, that was taken away. So besides those 2 years, it's been around from the beginning. Along with Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Album of the Year, it's been around the longest. According to the Grammy Awards, the Best New Artist Award is for a new artist who releases during the eligibility year the first recording which establishes the public identity of that artist. Basically, the breakout. In other words, any artist, regardless of genre, who made a significant contribution in our culture. A record doesn't even have to be their first. Okay, so in 1997, Larry McShane of the Associated Press called the Best New Artist Winners Pool a frightening mix of one-hit wonders, MTV caricatures, Pat Boone progeny, and dating fodder for the artist known as Prince. And that's what he called it, which, if you take into consideration the winners from the 60s to the 90s, is pretty much right. He said, and I quote, of the 36 honorees from 1959 to 1997, minus those 2 years that the award wasn't given, 21 never returned to the winner's circle. So 41% of the 36 Best New Artists went on to win another award and avoid episodes of VH1's Greatest One-Hit Wonders or Dancing with the Stars. So in the end, it's about 60-40. Is that really the kiss of death? Depends on whose career you're talking about. I just gave you the top 7 Best New Artist winners whose careers did suffer, and it's really just the tip of the iceberg there. I mean, there's still plenty of Best New Artist stories I could tell that could fill up several episodes. But of course, Grammy Awards are not the only measure of success. But man, there's a significant number of artists whose careers or commercial prospects took a major hit after receiving that award. Paula Cole, A Taste of Honey, Ricky Lee Jones, Evanescence, Jodie Watley, Leanne Rimes, Arrested Development, Shelby Lynne. Has anybody ever heard of anything from Arrested Development after that?
He got it, it's in a six. Take me to another.
So for every artist that did well winning this award, there's at least 2 that flopped. Probably, like I said, enough to do a few episodes on. But what about the bands that were nominated for Best New Artist but didn't win? I'm telling you, there were significant snubs here. Jefferson Airplane in 1968, Cream in 1969. I mean, you could argue the Eagles should have won over America in 1973, Bad Company in 75, Boston in 77, Foreigner in 78, The Cars and Toto in 79, Dire Straits in 80. That's right, Boston, Foreigner, The Cars, Toto, Dire Straits, all nominated, didn't win. They should have won the award, but you know what? It could have been a blessing in disguise, you know? Having the careers of any of these bands cut short, that would have been a tragedy if it really is a curse. Let's have a great discussion below. Do you think it's a curse? Should we cover another episode of some of these that won that's careers tanked after? Would you like to see more Grammy Awards episodes where we dig into the Grammys from the 60s, 70s, 80s and look at the biggest snubs and who should have won and what such? Let me know below. Let's have a great discussion. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We would love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.